very much. We're going to have a bit of a lightning round when you see 6 panelists in 30 minutes, which means we're going to cover a lot very quickly. Let me start with a quick introduction. My name is Brian Tippins, and I have the honor of leading social impact at Cisco. Social impact's around how we maximize and leverage the full power of Cisco, our technology, our dollars, our people, their volunteer hours, our influence, our partner ecosystem, to leverage all that to make maximum positive impacts in communities around the globe. And it's long been part of our DNA. We've done this for many, many years. You know that our purpose as a company is to power an inclusive future for all, and we take that very seriously. We talk about being good for the world and good for business, and so we've long invested in communities through our foundation, through employee volunteerism, through our crisis response programs. But our CEO challenged us several years ago, gave us a call to action to say, what could we do, what more impact could we make if we set a big, audacious goal around leveraging our ecosystem to positively impact lives. And so in 2015, we came up with a goal to positively impact 1 billion lives by 2025, and we were able to do that 1 year early and exceed that goal through a lot of the work that our organizations do, including the work that we're going to talk about today, the work that we do to support Ukraine. We've been committed to supporting Ukraine since even before the start of the war. Our support is ongoing and includes helping to defend critical infrastructure against cyber attacks, around establishing Wi-Fi connectivity for refugee communities, around providing Ukrainians with IT education to build their digital skills and employability. We've provided nearly $15 million in cash and product donations in the 2 years, and by the way, I think we're coming up on the 22nd, on the 2-year anniversary of the Russian invasion that has led to the situation that we're in now, which continues to persist. And that $15 million has been in cash and product donations. It's been in financial support. We match donations that our employees make to causes to support Ukraine. We do that through support of IT infrastructure, through our Talos and cybersecurity initiatives. We do that by supporting humanitarian aid throughout Ukraine. And so we want to talk today with some of our experts about exactly what it is we're doing, with the intent of being to help educate you all in the audience about how you can get involved. And a big part of this is also the work of our Cisco Networking Academy you're familiar with. It's about 25 years old and has trained over 20 million students over 190 countries. Initially, it was around, at its inception, the Networking Academy was around teaching people networking skills, teaching them Cisco certifications. It's grown over time to teach things like cybersecurity and IT essentials, and so we bring those resources to bear to help train the workforce of Ukrainians, and our employees have shown tremendous support through their own volunteer hours and donations. So we'll talk through in this panel a few examples of how we've been able to do this. So I'm going to invite my panelists into the discussion. We've got Vanya Svitzer. We'll start here with Aaron Connor, who leads Cisco Crisis Response. We've got Philip Wadowski, who is Philip Wadowski, Country Director from Poland NESsT.
Yep.
We've got Lucian Heider, who's a NetAcad lead in Poland. We've got Joszef Fuliter, who's a Cisco Crisis Response volunteer, and so you'll hear from each of them. So let's start with Vanya Svitzer. Can you tell us about Talos and why Talos has invested in Ukraine?
Yes, so to understand that, we need to go a little bit further back. So about 10 years ago, there were significant attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure, where the attackers were trying to bring down the power grid. So this is where Cisco Talos came to help some of the organization in Ukraine. And over time, we developed really good relationship with Ukrainian CERT, with National Cyber Police, with Special Communications unit as well. And so we were also present in Ukraine for a very long time. And so this was not the only attack that we tried to protect against. So when the NotPetya attack hit, which was one of the biggest ransomware attacks or destructive attacks ever to happen in the world, we were there. But we also discovered some completely new attacks, and so we basically developed relationship and friendship with many people in Ukraine. So when the kind of crisis started, when we realized that the conflict will become a war, we reached out to the organizations in Ukraine, and there are we felt that we have a responsibility to help. We had the responsibility to protect the critical infrastructure, to keep the people there safe from the cyber attacks, which we expected in a kind of big volume.
You mentioned the electrical grid specifically. Can you talk more about the work that you did to help protect the grid?
Well, So it's kind of almost a personal story, but not for me. One of my colleagues, Joe, who used to work in the electrical grid provider in the US, also developed very good relationship with the Ukrainian electricity transport company, Energo. And so he was presenting at one of the events when the people from Ukraine Energo were a year after the war started. So if you remember last year about this time, the Russians were trying to attack with missiles and to bring the high voltage substations down and bring the power grid down. And so when he was discussing, Joe, with the people from Ukrainian Energy, is like, what kind of problems do you have? And they were like, they're obvious problems, but a little bit less obvious problem is the GPS signal jamming. It turned out the GPS, it doesn't just transmit the location that we all know on our phones, but transmit very specific and very precise time. And so to keep the power grid balanced, you need to have really real-time measurements which are synchronized, which measure the phase and the magnitude of the voltage. And so if you don't have the GPS signal, you can bring that network, as soon as the network is unbalanced, you can basically have the power outages. So we modified one of the industrial Ethernet switches of Cisco with a slightly different software. So we actually needed to have a very precise time, which wouldn't oscillate. So the precision we needed was less than 100 nanoseconds of precision, which is like super tiny precision, which we were able to achieve with this modified switch. So now even if the GPS signal is jammed, the power grid is still stable.
That's a powerful example of how this crisis led to new innovations that we may be able to use in other crisis situations in the future. Thank you for sharing. So speaking of crisis and crisis response, I'll go to you, Aaron, to talk a bit about the organization, a little bit of background on Cisco crisis response generally, your approach to how you respond in crises, but then specifically to Ukraine, how has our support evolved from a crisis response standpoint?
Sure. So Cisco crisis response focuses on humanitarian and disaster response. And like Brian said, where we leverage our partnerships, our financial resources, our technology, our people, we do that to focus on really empowering organizations that are affected by crises or very vulnerable to meet basic needs. And for us, that means water, shelter, food, as well as connectivity. And so in the context of Ukraine, we provided a range of support. A lot of it began in the immediate days following the invasion in February 2 years ago, and much of it continues today. So we started by launching a matching gift campaign. That's where we identify nonprofit partners that are on the ground, that are providing humanitarian aid, and we identify them, feature them for our employees, and then Cisco matches those donations dollar for dollar. So we did that. That campaign actually continues today because the crisis is far from over. And we've raised over $4.5 million in employee donations that have been matched by Cisco and Cisco Foundation. We also provided cash grants to responding nonprofit organizations. Some were global response partners that we work with around the world, like the UN Refugee Agency, that we're supporting what is now over 9 million people that have fled Ukraine, as well as World Food Program and their emergency telecommunications cluster that's active in Ukraine. And then we also relied on our employee champions in the region who were already volunteering their time, their money, they were engaged to identify organizations that were more local, supporting Ukrainians that were internally displaced as well as Ukrainian refugees. And we awarded $1 million in grants to 7 local nonprofits in the region. Our team also deploys technology. We have a team of network engineers and operations specialists that have emergency backgrounds. And so we deployed to provide connectivity for our partners. And that included NGOs like World Central Kitchen for their food warehouse, local nonprofit organizations that were providing accommodation and basic services, as well as UNHCR in setting up connectivity for the refugee accommodation centers in 6 countries neighboring Ukraine. We continue to manage those networks, many of them today, and we continue to advise and work with our partners. World Food Program is an example where we recently advised on equipment that would go into their mobile command units in Ukraine for 10 vehicles, and then we donated that equipment to them, and that was just a few months ago. I think the last area where we engage is we have a crisis response grant portfolio, and that's where we invest in technology-based solutions that increase access to food, water, shelter, and disaster response. And so over the last 2 years, we've made a number of investments into nonprofit organizations that were developing, testing, or even implementing technology-based solutions to provide digital information services, digital cash assistance, being able to connect people to shelter, medical support in Ukraine and outside, and that's through partnerships and investments in organizations like International Rescue Committee, Norwegian Refugee Council, and AI for Good, which is an organization based in Ukraine.
So while all that's going on, and that's a lot, your team's been able to mobilize and provide connectivity and support, while at the same time dealing with other crises around the globe. In that same time frame of 2 years, there's the fires in Maui and earthquakes in Morocco and typhoons in the Philippines. Talk about the balance, you mentioned the word champions, between your team and your extended network, just very quickly, and lead me into intro of Joszef.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, year over year, we're responding to more incidents with the increase in frequency and severity of disasters. I think last year we responded to 22 incidents, and so, probably easily over 40 incidents we've responded to in the last 2 years since the Ukraine war started. And we don't fully deploy to everyone, but it is a range, like I said, of disaster campaigns, cash grants, product donations. Our team also provides consulting support to response agencies, as well as our investment in technology-based initiatives. So it can be a range. It depends on the severity of the need, tech capacity on the ground, and we are supported by a network of Cisco employee volunteers that we call our crisis response community. We are a team of 12, but we rely on our network of over 700 Cisco employees that volunteer their time, their expertise, that are around the world, that really help serve as a force multiplier and help us fulfill our mission.
And one of those 800, one of the best of those 800, is Joszef, who's joining us. Talk a little bit about, first, what's your day job, but how you have been able to help crisis response to mobilize with Ukrainians.
So my daily job is I'm a technical solutions architect based in Budapest, in enterprise network area, covering enterprise customers. And it was a really nice experience how I got to the CCR community, because when the war started, the whole Hungarian office, as well with Poland, Cisco Poland, Romania, we helped in the very first day in transporting the refugees from the border side to the center of the country, where they can have a safe transport towards to their families or to other organizations. They can carry them farther. And there was a feeling that there's a support we need to provide further in country, not only at the border side. And that's how I got engaged with the CCR community. That was the situation over there. If we can get connected, and how can Cisco and the CCR support the whole situation with the local NGO engagements. And that's how we got to the Cisco project grant and also the financial grant for the local NGOs. Because the situation was really specific. You can imagine, I believe on the Far East there is always a social situation that have to fight poverty. And there are donations before the war. There were donations at the specific NGO I was work with. They were receiving one track of donations a month. At the days and the beginning of the weeks of the war, it increased 4 trucks in a day. So you can imagine, like no infrastructure, team, people, system, that can manage properly the food distribution, the donation distribution. So that's where, with the help of the CCR team, with the Cisco Product Grant, we can build up. We can create a system for the warehouse. Now we call it new. When we arrived over there, it was a warehouse with no doors. So when you see Cisco marketing videos with automated forklifts and 1,000 access points all around, cameras, so it was really was something we had to start it from the ground. And today we can say it's a technology that really keeps them away from thieves, from illegal people that are placing signs of Ukraine help. So the trucks are coming for taking the donations away, and we can now check automatically by the cameras the license plates. We have barcode readers in the warehouse that can connect over the Wi-Fi. We have cameras inside the warehouse. We have digital cards that every family can carry and can check what is the donation that they already received. So that was a beautiful experience, how we made a technology bridge and help people in the crisis.
So it's a good example of how we're thinking about cybersecurity, but also physical security, deploying Cisco's assets. Typically when we think about crises, particularly refugee crises, it's initially around food, water, shelter, and now food, water, shelter, connectivity. But when you have a crisis like this that goes on for so long, Lucian, you could speak to this, it's a need to satisfy those basic human needs, but also think about skills development and providing employment for displaced communities. Can you talk about the work that Net Academy's done to support Ukrainians?
Of course. Before I will start to tell you about the project, I have to explain you the background for this decision to do something for the refugees. When the war starts at the 24th of February 2022, immediately Polish border started to cross huge number of refugees. I am living in the city located about 80 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. And all these refugees have to pass my city because it was the only way to go to the Western Europe or to Warsaw, to Krakow, to other Polish cities. In the peak time, daily, Polish border was crossed by more than 100,000 refugees. 100,000 refugees daily. Yeah. It was a really huge amount of people. And the main problem was how to take care about them. I mean, it was not possible to leave them because it was the middle of the winter. It was very cold, and everybody have to place to sleep, you know, something to eat, and it was the main goal for the beginning after the war starts. After the few weeks, situation become more stable. Yeah, it was possible because the situation with huge number of refugees was solved in a very unique way. The Polish people take the refugees to their homes because there was no other solution to help them in so short period of time. Yeah. So after, as I said, a few weeks, the Polish country was more ready to do something with such big number of the refugees. Also, that during a few months, in Poland there was almost 2 million refugees staying somewhere, different cities, different regions of Poland. Yeah. And when the situation became stable, I mean that everybody was safe. Yeah. I received a phone call from my colleague responsible for the Cisco Networking Academy in Eastern Europe, with the proposal to do something for them, to do the training. And I think it was a great idea. Yeah. Why? Because it was a lot of people, mainly ladies and children, who were not working in Poland. They have a lot of free time and wanted to do something, but not always they were ready to the market, requests. I mean that they are not. They had the job who couldn't find the position in Poland. Yeah, and our proposal was that we may do something for them. Yeah, so we may do the training from the IT, and probably that it is huge demand of the IT staff every country in Europe, not only Poland, I think, And the idea was to start with the training for the refugees from three areas. The first one was the cybersecurity, the second was networking, and the third one was programming. And we offer these three areas of training for to the refugees. The situation was, that we started with the pilot because it was completely new for us to do something for the refugees. Of course, we are the university. I work at the university, as I told you, located very close to the Ukrainian border. We had a lot of Ukrainian students before. Our university was studying before about 1,000 students before, but it was completely new situation for us because there was the people who didn't experience in IT before, and it was something we have to check what we may do for them to help them on the best way, because it's completely different from teaching the students, And we started with the pilot. The pilot was in holiday 2022. It was about 2-3 months, And the result from this pilot was, the first information is most of these people do not speak English, So we have to teach them in Ukrainian, The second, information was those people, most of them do not have IT background, they don't have IT experience. So we have to start from the very beginning, And knowing that, we continue to work on the project. That the main, most important task for us was, to translate curricula, Cisco curricula to Ukrainian, to offer those people training local language. Also, we decided to hire Ukrainian trainers. It was quite interesting because until today, because this project still is in progress, until today, the training is done by refugees for refugees. We hire refugees to do it. So that's really interesting.
Could you close with how many people we've been able to assist to date?
So generally, we said that we have to train at least 10,000 people.
Wonderful.
And now, until today, we already did the training for 9,000 refugees. So really huge amount of people, and still we are working. So it will be probably more than 10,000, I believe.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. So you see a cross section between cybersecurity, physical security, critical human needs, training, learning, and development. Let's end with you, Philip, talking about the work of NESsT. Introduce NESsT, the work you're doing in Ukraine, and your relationship with Cisco and the foundation.
Sure. So NESsT is an organization that invests in enterprises that create quality jobs for people at risk of exclusion. And we work in different regions. We work in Central Europe, in Latin America. When the war started, we already had our 25 years of experience of working in the region, trying to find enterprises that can upskill, reskill, provide training opportunities to at-risk youth, to women, to people with disabilities. And like what Lucian described, the situation at the very beginning, it very like soon after the outbreak, we started to think how we can adjust our way of working with missing middle enterprises. And I just want to let you know that these are enterprises that can solve social problems, social issues, being grassrooted, working at the local level. They usually miss funding opportunities and capacity building opportunities because they are too small for banks. Banks don't want to invest in them, and they are too large for micro credits. And this is where we can step in by providing them a tailored program of capacity building, by providing them also funding. All of that was possible in this initiative, Refugee Employment Initiative, thanks to Cisco Foundation, which was our anchor donor. We went to them telling that our idea is to find 15 impact-driven enterprises that have experience in working with excluded communities and can adjust their business models to working with refugees and migrants. And from the very beginning, we knew that what we need to find in the market is very diversified portfolio, because we are receiving waves of refugees with different skill sets, and we want to have response in terms of career paths and career development opportunities to all of them. So we're just giving you a highlight maybe where we are now, is that that we managed to create we invested in 9 enterprises, so we have still some like 6 to scout for, but through these 9 enterprises within the not even 2 years, so a year and a half, that was 380 jobs, quality jobs created for refugees. Also over 1,400 of upskilling training opportunities provided, language trainings, psychological counseling, and in total that impacted 4,200 people, because oftentimes we saw women with young kids, sometimes with older parents that were evacuated here. So these are the numbers, and like our idea from the very beginning was thinking about the long-term solution. So part of these people will stay, they will need to find a job. Our job market needs talent, so how we can match these dots. That was the beginning.
So you get a good idea of the cross-section of the ways that we've been able to mobilize directly as Cisco, but also in partnership with our partners. We only had time to scratch the surface, but I'm sure all panelists will be around to answer any questions at the end. This was beginning to spark some of the ideation around how we responded in Ukraine, but also models that we use to respond around the globe. I opened up talking about our big goal in 2015 of positively impacting 1 billion lives, and we were super pleased to announce last month that we were able to reach that goal, in fact, surpass that goal and positively impact 1.1 billion lives, and 1 year early, and it's through initiatives like the ones that you've heard about today. I want to play just a little quick video about that goal.
At Cisco, we believe if we can imagine it, we can make it possible. In 2015, our newly appointed CEO, Chuck Robbins, challenged us to imagine how we could grow from a company with a great track record in corporate social responsibility to a company that innovates solutions to the world's greatest challenges. So, in 2016, we set an audacious goal for our company: 1 billion lives positively impacted by 2025. This year, through the extraordinary work of our global nonprofit partners, the leadership of the Cisco Foundation and Cisco's Networking Academy, and the passion of our leaders and employees across the company, we exceeded our goal more than 1 year early. We've now positively impacted 1.1 billion people, and that's something to celebrate. But it's also a moment to look ahead. As we consider our next audacious goal, we're thinking about the future of our purpose. We know we're stronger as part of an ecosystem of impact, and that together we can create a world where everyone can thrive. Join us as we continue our journey to power an inclusive future for all.
Now, in typical Cisco fashion, we celebrated reaching that milestone for about 5 minutes, and now we have to think about where do we go from here? What's that next goal that we're going to set? And as we do so, we invite you to come along with us on this journey. We're definitely better together. You hear about the benefits of these partnerships. It's Cisco bringing our resources to bear, but working with our nonprofit partners, working with Net Academy partners around the globe, working with all of you. So we invite you to please scan that QR to learn more about the methodology that we use to reach that 1 billion, but also stories of some of the impact stories that we were able to achieve through our partners. So thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. As I mentioned, our panelists will be here afterwards if you want to ask them any questions. Please join me in thanking our panel.